So do you guys want us to just start playing, or do you want us to go over our armies, or?
We're going to start with commentary for Bruce and
then go over the armies and then start playing.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'll just give you guys signal.
And I'll, since I'm free, I'll be able to kind of so I go to play the evil first.
This one right here.
Oh,
Hey,
snap.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. We're about to stream another practice game brought to you by EBIT Gaming and the regulators here in DFW area. My buddy Rob here is with me. We're going to be commentating this game.
Having some
And,
Texas tea.
Yes, we got all the monsters that we need to get through it. And I want to talk a little bit about the missions, right, before we get into it, because these are not ITC missions. These are new missions that have been developed specifically for the Texas Trios.
Again, yeah, Texas.
Yep.
Texas Trios.
So when we have that team tournament, it's a 3-man tournament. We're going to be playing these missions exclusively, and the deployment zones, along with the primary and mission objectives, are somewhat different. In an ITC format, you are rewarded for killing a lot of units, right? So if you kill more units than the opposing player, then you're going to be steadily outpacing them in victory points. In this format, one of the biggest differences is that you don't get a point each turn for killing more units than your opponent. You get a point for killing a unit that was on an objective. So while kills are still rewarded, it has to be tactical.
It's a little more risk reward.
Right. So you could get on an objective, but then is your unit robust enough to be able to survive a turn of shooting or attack from the other guy? So these are...
You mean I can't just put my engineer on the objective and get 2 points from that one guy every single time?
Well, there are no engineers, right?
Exactly.
Right.
That was my point.
So basically how it rolls down is that every turn you'll get a point for holding an objective. You'll get a point every turn for holding more objectives than your opponent. You get a point for destroying a unit, and then you get a point for destroying a unit that was on an objective. Now, if you destroy a unit that was on an objective and that's the only kill that you got that turn, you score 2 points. So there's no, do we count this double? I don't know. You know, all the confusion from some other systems are eliminated in this. Now, their deployment is a modified hammer and anvil. I don't know how many tournaments you've been to, but sometimes there's like 5 tables in a row, and if you want to deploy your units on the other side of the table in that hammer and anvil, you got to walk around all these tables to get to the other side. This one shortens your deployment zone by 12 inches, so you simply can't put units on that last foot of the table on your side. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this. We've got Jayson and Jony playing.
It says double Chaos Demons, but the new Chaos Knights, which are out, are being played by Jayson, yes, and Jony is playing his the same Chaos, just holding still to those true Chaos Demons, but he also has at least one Knight. No? Oh, okay.
You can see kind of clearly how they're deployed. Those yellow units, infantry units, all strung out. That's forming that L shape, and that kind of gives you the visual indication of what their deployment zone is. And of course, on the other side, that knight is upwards on the left, that blue one, and he's at the very edge.
Those yellow resilient plague bearers, yes, from Nurgle, with their invuln and their feel no pain and
Minus to hit and everything.
they're.
All right. The only other things that we haven't talked about is in every game that you play, you select a designated survivor. So you're going to select a unit of yours that will survive the entire game. And if they do, then you get 2 victory points. If you kill your opponent's survivor, designated survivor, you score 2 victory points. So 4 victory points swing over the course of a game. That can be pretty huge. So that's an added layer.
It was very like Kingslayer, but with a
like
little more
Kingslayer,
twist because like
Warlord.
yeah, gives you a big stronger, a big swing, better swing for the person who didn't take Kingslayer.
Right. So all of these objectives and scoring mechanisms that we talked about are all the ones that are present in every mission that you play. Now there are also mission objectives specific to Mission 5 or Mission 2 of the tournament. In this one, there are 3. Each one you can score up to 4 points on, and you can only score 1 point per turn. And they are kill an enemy troop unit, and if the enemy does not have any troop units on the table, you automatically score that point. So it kind of punishes those wonky lists that try to abuse.
And there's a unit of
I'll
Chaos
take
Marines.
5 knights and 2 tank commanders, and I've got nothing else in my army. It doesn't even really feel like presentational.
Yeah.
So killing troop units, units up to 4, hold the neutral objective that you placed, and then holding the objective in the enemy deployment zone.
Well, I'd like to point out that our first comment on the stream is by the lovely, not really attractive to me, but I'm sure there are other people out there who would find him attractive. Nate Goodfellow, who was supposed to be here, but he's not. So I'm just gonna straight up call him out right now. Thanks for commenting, Nate. Thanks for watching, Nate. But what up? What's up with that? Like, really? Come on, come on, guys. I think they're already rolling dice. I went right into that segue.
Let's go ahead and jump into the game, and we determine who got
Little
first
color
turn.
commentary. Sorry.
So I'll let you go first. I'm not gonna try to see.
Okay. So just get into it.
Yeah, just take it away.
All right. So I got first, and we already got our warlord traits and heirlooms and command points spent. So Jony's gonna let me have first turn, and I'm just gonna get into it. So I'm gonna go into my movement phase.
I already saw an article about this, like what one of the advantages of playing knights, like at least your movement phase is cut down, so you have a lot more decision making when it comes to the other phases. Yes, this was a absolutely terrible article, but you try and stay up with the times and see what the popular opinions are out there, even if you don't agree with necessarily what the author is writing.
The introduction of the block, I noticed
Yes,
that,
Linus likes to play
that
birds.
night pleasures have a little bit of an advantage because
He'll reach the play birds just fine.
the
So
whole
I'm
models,
just
right?
gonna
So
move
they move their models a lot quicker, move around the board a lot quicker, they consume a lot less clock time.
there.
And it's not that,
So I'm gonna
it's not
slide
that,
these guys out of the way to get the Chaos Space Marines out.
I lost my train of thought for a second, but it's not that so much that they're reserving their time and they're not consuming as much of their time, but it's also you're thinking a lot in your opponent's turn. What I'm going to do next turn based on where I see him move, based on what I see him shoot, things of that nature. And when their entire turn lasts 10, 15 minutes, you just don't have a lot of free time, in the opponent's turn on their dime to think about your strategy.
Well, I mean that's the entire point, though. Like, so we talk about skipping phases essentially. Like, there are different armies that skip different phases. For example, Necrons and Tau, they just skip the psychic phase. Just don't even consider it. So, like, during that time when your opponent has an actual psychic phase, you can actually you can think about what you're doing because you're like, well, I don't have to worry about that, and it's just one of those other things that you can kind of sidestep into and make sure that you're able to find your own strategy, find your stride while you're, essentially skipping a phase of the game. Well, also Tau, like, they skip the psychic phase, and arguably they skip the melee phase. So, like, that's also one of the advantages.
Sure.
But again, so knights here, like, you spend about, I don't know, 30 seconds in the movement phase, and that's it. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of them can have a large amount of weapons. Crusaders have 4 weapons on them, 8 each, and then you can have a singular squad of your chaos over there, like your flamers firing off. They're still only firing off their single weapon. So, like, each squad is going to be firing 1 weapon. So your shooting is going to be approximately the same, just depending on which units you are flying off individually. But yeah. So it's one of those clock saving things. It's also like there's transport things and having to spend. So we have, if you look up in the top right hand corner, you can see the movement trays for our lovely chaos player Jony, and he has all of the, like, he's able to, but he has a lot of flexibility also, like being able to keep them out and put them in all at the same time.
Yep. And Jason is taking advantage of his large movement. The knight right on that objective,
Yeah.
neutral zone.
Yeah, just getting out as quickly as possible, and again, so holding the objective, like with a heavier unit, also very important in the Texas trios, just because, like what you were saying earlier, with the objective control.
Yeah, and in this case, even if Jony had gotten first turn, his plague bearers only have a movement rate of 5.
Mm-hmm.
They can advance, but you roll ones. You roll ones and twos, and even with an advance roll, it's unlikely that they would have even made it to that objective.
And he's pushing up towards the other objective as well. Yep,
And,
that seems to be a good solid strategy over there.
At the start of the shooting phase, I'll pay 2 CP
Um,
to increase their invul save by 1.
Okay. I'm gonna go into my psychic phase.
being able to, control those objectives with these very hefty units, and also like the counter, now they're highly vulnerable comparative.
Do I want
Okay.
to burn